let's talk about some of the things that commercial brokers, buyers and sellers too, investors, business owners should be looking at when they receive a title report.
Well, so I always, we teach classes on this, and we have so many horror stories of people that don't
Yes.
read the title report, right? So that's my overwhelming message is, we take so much pride in crafting these reports. Each one of them is handcrafted. Please read them and call us if you have questions. But I think the first thing you look at, of course, is the vesting. Make sure you're dealing with the correct people. If you're dealing with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but it's owned by the Smith Corporation or the Smith Trust or whatever it happens to be, just make sure that you're dealing with the correct folks. If it is an entity, whether it's a trust, an LLC, a general partnership, a corporation, you want to ask right away, do they have those entity documents? Because the title company is going to need those for signing authority. Do they have a bank account in the name of the LLC? You won't believe how many times we have transactions that are and properties are owned by the LLC, but they don't have a bank account, and we have to disperse to the selling entity, right? So we have to disperse to a bank account in the name of that LLC. So that causes problems at the end of a transaction if those questions aren't asked beforehand.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you there because this happened. I see this so many times where a buyer, especially, will start out, let's say, John and Jane Smith, and then in the middle of the transaction, they change their mind. They either create a new LLC or they want to put it in another LLC that they already have formed. And that's fine. We can all work with that, right? But then the documents need to be changed. All of the paperwork needs to be provided. And sometimes that's a rush. Right. And then you touched on a really great point, which is if you purchase a property under a certain vesting, a certain entity, then you need to be able to disperse funds to that same entity when escrow closes. And I feel like a lot of times we'll ask the questions up front, and then that changes a lot. I see that probably half the time.
Sure.
Transactions.
Yeah, no, we see it whether it's on residential or commercial. We see that regularly, and whether it's the buyer or the seller, we need to certify signing authority for the entity. So we're always asking for that kind of thing. And listen, there are folks that have a trust that's 9 binders full, thick, and they have assets all over the world, and we don't need to see those assets for the most part, right? All we need to verify is signing authority. Who is the trustee for this trust? Who can sign for the trust, right?
Yes.
Most of the time, unless somebody's passed away, most of the time that can be verified with a 1-page trust certificate or certificate of trust. We don't need to see the whole trust for the most part, unless, again, somebody's died and we want to see what the trust says. Happens when one of the trustees or one of the grantors, the settlers, is incapacitated or has passed away. So that's when we'll ask for those sections of the trust. But again, we don't care about your Lamborghini collection. We don't care about your property in Switzerland. That's the stuff that we want to see. And so, yeah, we get kickback on that a little bit. And I just remind people, listen, we're not digging into your business. We just need to verify signing authority.
Yeah, you don't need someone to back up with the truck and bring in all the boxes. And I think that when people are selling and purchasing a property, they're not always thinking about what's going to be happening later, because making sure that everything is verified now will make life so much easier down the road when you go to sell a property or transfer a property.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. And that's what we run into when we get kickback from a buyer sometimes. And we say, listen, we could probably see our way. We can get through underwriting and uh, get you into this property. But next year, when you go to refi or you go to sell 5 years down the road or whatever, you're going to run into this again. So
Yes.
let's work on it now.
Yeah. I was involved in a transaction recently where another title company had the title in escrow, and they said, we cannot insure this property. And we ended up bringing it to you and to your team, and we were able to work everything out. So, what would be some reasons why something like that would happen, where a title company would say, we're not able to insure title on this?
There are various reasons. So again, as I mentioned, like a publicly traded company, just to take a Tycor for example, I'm just using an example, the Fidelity family of companies, or First American, not to call anybody out. But when you're publicly traded, you have to make sure that the stockholders are taken care of. So they have generally a tighter underwriting box, right?
Sure.
And sometimes that box is the same in Florida as it is in Nebraska, as it is in Nevada. We're able, because we have 4 underwriters, we're underwritten by publicly traded companies, and we're also underwritten by a Lloyd's of London subsidiary, Real Advantage title company. They're not publicly traded, and they're old title guys like me, so they take each of those on a case-by-case basis. So whether it involves bankruptcy issues, if it involves probate issues, a lot of times that kind of stuff, an underwriter at a publicly traded company may not have the leeway in the guidelines. Construction broken priority is a big red flag.
Yeah.
Tribal lands, big red flag, so on and so forth. We can work our way through it. It just is a matter of desire to work your way through it, and the ability to look at things outside of a smaller window.
I really like that about your organization, is there's a lot of enthusiasm and motivation there, because even on the broker side, it takes those same types of qualities to successfully complete transactions sometimes too, when they're not straightforward, they're not easy. And also the ability to be flexible and come up with creative solutions. I really appreciate that about your team as well. And so thank you for that.